Are those the ones that were in the 80s, the first time that DC got a hold of the character?
That's right.
They're insane.
That's right.
They are insane. Those comics are great.
Yeah.
My first question is, we have been told that James Gunn started writing this story while wrapping up the Suicide Squad, quote, mostly for fun. But let's be real. Did you two put pressure on him to bring your characters back for a series? Did you tell him, James, I'm only going to do your little Suicide Squad movie if I can come back in a larger capacity?
Well, they say the internet is filled with misinformation. I think you might have fallen victim to some. Jen's going to be able to weigh in on this better than me, but I believe James wrote Peacemaker because he was bored with COVID. So, I mean, the Suicide Squad was already done, edited. I read it tip to tail before I stepped on the field and knew that Peacemaker's journey was for the Suicide Squad, and that was it. I still really wanted to be a part of it. I don't try to take things and parlay them into other things. I think if you do good work, you'll get another chance to do good work. So I may be speaking out of turn, but I think James wrote it during COVID when he was bored.
You're right. And for me, I didn't expect my character to go anywhere further than the film. When she was first written, she was called Comms Tech 2. She was not Emilia Harcourt. James gave her a name because he thought it would be fun for fans to see her name in the credits and go, oh, that was Emilia Harcourt. So I had absolutely no expectations that my character was going to go any further than that. I was just really excited to be a part of the film and to get to work with Viola Davis and to get to work with, Steve Agee. And it was an incredible time. But as soon as Suicide Squad wrapped and we got back to Los Angeles, COVID hit, we couldn't do anything. And, James struggles with depression like a lot of people. And I think in order to put himself through a bit of therapy and give himself a purpose during this time when we couldn't leave the house or see friends or anything, he decided to dive into some work. And this was the work that he dove into. And miraculously, it got greenlit and we made it so quickly.
John, James has said that you are the most gifted improvisational actor that he's ever worked with, and he's worked with some all-timers. I would love to know, what is your approach to improving in a scene as Peacemaker?
I think it's knowing the material, and I think James may have a skewed perspective, but keep in mind, let's get the whole paper trail here. James is a very thorough writer, and Jen can attest to this. We were given the 8 episodes so far in advance that I could read this story so many times. So when you step on the field, so to speak, and you know every play in the playbook without having a look at anything, when you have to call an audible, you're present. You know exactly what's going on around you. So I thank James for saying something like that, but essentially it's a nod to himself because he got us the material and allowed me to study it.
Yeah.
If it's a script that I'm handed to that day and like, oh, last minute changes just came in from the writer's room, how am I possibly going to deviate from stuff that I don't even know? So I think a James Gunn, John Cena team works well in improvisation together because James is so professional to get me the material right away and I can memorize it. And then he's confident enough as a filmmaker to be like, just go for one and to have fun with it. And that's how that works so well.
Hi, James. I'm Hector. I'm here with Nerdist.
I know who you are.
Hey.
Good to see you, man.
Great
Good
to see you. This show is insane, and I loved it. And I'm just such a lifelong comic book fan, and I'm so happy that we've gotten to this point in entertainment where great storytellers such as yourself can come in and take these obscure characters and tell these bonkers stories in these corners of these large universes. I could go on. My first question for you, James, going back to the Suicide Squad, was there a specific moment in Peacemaker's story that inspired you to start writing the sequel series, Peacemaker?
I think that there was a moment with John. There were a couple of moments in particular, but one with John where he was about to kill Ratcatcher 2. And I saw, this incredibly sad feeling about Peacemaker as it's happening, this sense of regret. And I started to see a side of John Cena that I hadn't seen before. I knew he was funny. I always knew he was funny. But I started to see that he had the ability to go deep and to express his sadness. And John and I also talked a lot during the show about this character who felt so isolated. And even when everybody else starts getting along, he feels like he's alone. He doesn't connect to other people. And the way he tries to connect is through bravado, which is very insecure, and it doesn't work for him. So I just thought he was an interesting character. I also thought he was a very present day character in terms of his, kind of wacky political beliefs, and and especially the relationship with him and Leota, who is a totally different, has a completely different belief system in every way from what he has, and how that these two characters that are so different still find some common humanity between the two of them, a connection. And that to me is the central love story of Peacemaker, not a romantic love story, not a sexual love story, but a real love story. And that's sort of what excited me about telling this story.
Now, like I said, you're one of these amazing storytellers. I believe that you're one of the ones working in entertainment right now. You really understand what's great about comics. They're so silly. They're so intense. And you've talked about John Ostrander's run as being such an influence on you for the Suicide Squad. Do you have any comic recommendations that were influential for the Peacemaker series, that were inspirational to you, or even not? I just want to talk comics with you for a sec, James.
Yeah. Well, I think that listen, I started writing the show before I even read all the Peacemaker comics, but I was reading them as I was writing the show. But there's a lot of things that I do, the couple of elements that I take from Paul Kupperberg's run of Peacemaker.
Yeah.
The relationship with his crazy father, for one. And I thought that works pretty well. I thought Kupperberg did a lot of really great stuff in that time with Peacemaker, with, Vigilante, other characters. He really did some edgy stuff that was not normal for that time. It was kind of right before the edgy stuff happened.
Yes, absolutely. Are those the ones that were in the 80s, the first time that DC got a hold of the character?
That's right.
They're insane.
That's right.
They are insane. Those comics are great.
Yeah.
Well, James, thank you so much for talking to me today, man. It was great to see you. Looking forward to everything you're doing in your future, man. Have a great rest of your day. Thanks so much.
Thanks, man. I'll talk to you soon. Take care.
Got it.
Bye-bye.